The sunshine shines down on Donington Park this weekend as the Ginetta GT Academy rolls into the East Midlands to put on, we hope, a really good show over their 3 races this weekend on the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, the 3rd event of the season for all of the Ginetta categories, who of course are racing full-time these days on the SRO British GT package with 1 or 2 standalone events along the way. But it's a good crowd on hand to enjoy what's almost guaranteed to be an entertaining race. We're never lacking for things to talk about in Ginetta GT Academy action, and I'm sure that this weekend will be absolutely no different as the championship battle that's starting to develop between Nick White and Ravi Rammeed reaches its next chapter. We've had some really good racing between the two of them. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, they often seem to find themselves separated on track by the end of the race, but they've had some good side-by-side battles and are only separated by 4 points as we arrive at Donington Park. Some would say too early to start thinking about championship standings, but every race scores the same amount of points, and Nick and Ravi look as though they're going to be pretty inseparable as the season goes on. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box, Kai Bachin alongside me for what I'm hoping will be an entertaining race this one. We've just been thoroughly entertained by the GT Championship, Ginetta GT Championship, and the GT Academy, really sort of the entry level these days into Ginetta racing. As I said, it's usually all action.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be amazing. If the championship race is anything to go by, I'm looking forward to this Academy race right here. We have a substantial grid and a very close championship to run by. Only 4 points is separating the top 2 drivers right now, as you were mentioning, Nick White and Ravi Rammeed. You don't want to count out either of those drivers in this race, and that just means that either of the 2 that beat each other on the circuit could be a new championship leader.
Exactly, yes, because you score 35 points for winning a race, 30 for finishing second. The mathematicians among you will know that's a 5-point difference, and they're only 4 points apart. So if they are first and second, then yes, we could see a championship lead change, I suppose. Well, we'll see a championship lead change if Ravi Rammeed wins the race. And there's a very good chance of that, because Ravi has set the fastest lap time in qualifying, and his Century Motorsport number 17 car will start from the inside of row 1. That is pole position. Nick White alongside him was half a second slower. Sort of what we saw at Silverstone, actually, because Ravi really was the quicker of the 2 drivers in the races at Silverstone, but made a few more mistakes, and so Nick White ultimately was able to come out of the weekend still with the points advantage, having won race 1. Ravi was challenging him, but had a couple of moments. Ravi did, though, get his act together in race 2 and managed to claim the victory, so it's 2 wins for Nick White, 3 for Ravi, but as we see very often, Kai, it's that consistency that often can matter more than outright pace and race wins come season's end.
Yeah, and you can see, even with it not being the end of the season, you can see that consistency is obviously what you need. Ravi Rammeed, as you said, he's had three race wins to Nick White's 2 race wins, who's still leading the championship, though. And with that 5-point deficit that he would have had on that 1 round if he was to finish in second position, even though he's built up these points over the rest of the rounds, he still finds himself in the lead of the championship.
They all run in the GT Academy class. There is also a rookie class for, well, rookie drivers, and Matt Shaw is the runaway leader in that class. He's won 4 of the 5 races so far. Richard Just was victorious, I seem to recall, at Alton Park, yes, in the 3rd race at Alton Park, but all of the rookie class drivers run by the Want to Race squad, who are very much all about encouraging new drivers into motorsport, and the GT Academy, a brilliant place to come and do exactly that. The Ginetta G56 car derived from the GT4 machine, so the same kind of chassis that we saw racing in the GT Championship just now. The Ford V6 engine producing about 270 brake horsepower, but these cars run on road tyres, and that really is the big difference. They give the drivers a car with all of this power, plenty of aerodynamics, but not a lot of mechanical grip, and that can lead to some pretty spectacular moments. Ravi Rammeed's had several of those this season, but he'll be hoping for a clean and calm race from pole position, starting alongside Nick White, with Ed Akers, another action man of the championship, starting 3rd, alongside the leading rookie on the grid and in the championship, Matt Shaw. Thomas Shelley and Mark Ellman are together on row number 3, with Paul Livesey and Amy Tomlinson next on the 4th row. Amy Tomlinson, the 2nd highest of the rookies on the grid. It's pretty much rookies from here to the end now. Emma Tomlinson and Charlotte Lowe are next. They complete the top 10 overall, whilst Lucy Tomlinson and Phil McGarty are on the 6th row of the 7-row grid. Mackenzie Walker at the back. Now, Mackenzie Walker shouldn't be at the back based on the pace we've seen from him previously. The reason he's at the back is because both he and Phil McGarty were disqualified from qualifying earlier on for technical non-compliance. And those of you who want to dig into the regulations. It's championship regulation 6.13.11, which at some point I'll try and look up, but it likely won't matter because they're both drivers, I think, Kai, particularly Mackenzie Walker, who should be able to move through the field. And as we saw from Ruben Haig in that previous race, that is very doable here at Donington.
Yeah, Haig in that last race that we've just seen carving through the field from that pit lane start. And obviously with these DQs in qualifying, it will set them to the back of the grid. It won't set them to the pit lane though. No. So a bit of an advantage on that side. So not too much of a disadvantage that you will have been taken. That's maybe what, 10, maybe 9-10 positions that you will have lost out on if you were going to be one of the front runners. But if you're going to be in the mid pack, you're really not losing out on that much in a grid this size.
No, that's very true. There is the number 70 of Mackenzie Walker then. So Mackenzie Walker has been relatively rapid this season so far. And Mackenzie, well, rapid, but not necessarily scoring as many points as he'd like because he's had non-finishes, 2 non-finishes at Alton Park, which then sort of matched up with a 4th place finish in race 2. Silverstone, he did finish both races, but yet to get a race victory. Those two, though, I believe, will be starting at the back with a 10-second delay, so they will be some way behind the rest of the field by the time they get to Redgate Corner, but as Kai quite rightly says, they should be able to move forward at least some of the way through the field. You score points within your class, though, so getting past rookie drivers won't do them a lot of good. They've got to start mixing it with the other GT Academy class drivers by the end. So 20 minutes then on the clock. Ravi Ramyid, the light blue, green and white car on pole position. Alongside him, his championship rival, Nick White. The lights go out. We're away and racing here at Donington Park. Quite a bit of gravel on the track by the looks of it in front of pole position. But Ravi Ramyid manages to hold on to the lead, or does he? Chops to the outside, back to the inside. Nick White doesn't quite have the overlap into the braking zone. And so Ramyid will hold on to the advantage. That is Thomas Shelley up to 3rd, with Ed Akers down to 4th place by turn 1. Already, though, Nick White is hunting around behind the race leader, Ravi Ramyid, trying to get the lead as they drop down through the Craner curves.
Down the Craner curves we go, and now towards the old hairpin. You can see that's a look on the inside there from one of the drivers in the mid-pack. That looks like that's the number 20 looking for a move, but that's Akers going for a move, just kicking up a little bit of gravel and grass on the exit, but he'll make that move stick and get himself up at a 3rd position as Shelley goes down into 4th off the start here. Shelley not giving up the position easy though. He's going to sit on the rear bumper of the number 20 right now, diving down in the circuit. We're going to go on board here with the number 88. That's Elman, currently in 5th position. You can see, just looking at the tail lights there of Shelley in behind. Shelley being in 4th position right now. Elman just trying to keep it all calm and collected right now, not getting involved in any battles for the time being, as neither is Ramyid, as I'm sure he will just be charging forwards, looking to try and extend his lead.
But not really successful in doing so at the moment, is he? White is sticking with him. There's a car in the gravel. It's Phil McGarty. Coppice, I think that is, on the exit of Coppice, which is an easy place to go off on cold tyres. Car goes very light over that crest and easy to swap ends. So Phil McGarty off, but only just off the track into the gravel trap, and that means he's in a particularly precarious position. He's not going to dig himself out of that, is he? Well, I'm very delighted to be proven wrong. That's exactly what he did, and that means no cause for a safety car. McGarty's race sort of ruined, but at least he's got himself back on track.
Yeah, it's always good to see that the drivers are able to get themselves back onto the track without any issues. And there you can see 2 drivers battling in the rookie class as they made their way down the straight there. That looked like the number 11 of the 2 Tomlinson brothers getting involved in the battle there as they were fighting away on the circuit. They'll make their way down. Sorry, no, the Tomlinson siblings there. That's Amy and Lucy as they're going down the circuit, currently in 7th and 8th position, battling at the front of the rookie class.
Indeed so keeping it in the family well and truly, those two, weren't they? But a little bit of a rub at Goddard's, not the end of the world. Up the inside goes Mackenzie Walker. Now Mackenzie, remember, starting for the back, has already overcome that 10-second delay. We're hearing, and I say we're hearing, this is David Addison who's done his homework, done my homework for me, and tells me that Mackenzie didn't have new tyres fitted for qualifying. It's a championship regulation that all cars have to go out in qualifying with new tyres on. He did not do that, so that is the cause for the penalty, and it was the same for Phil McGarty as well, we're hearing. So an interesting regulation, not one I've come across before, I must admit, but that's why those two were at the back of the field, and already Mackenzie Walker starting to make good progress up the order. He'll be clear of the rookies before much longer, and then we'll be chasing after the tail end of the GTA class. Back down onto the Melbourne loop they go, and Ravi Ramyid now starting to look a bit more comfortable out front.
Yeah, definitely starting to extend the lead that he already has right now. About 9/10 of a second, just over 8/10 of a second is now the gap that Ramidi's been able to pull. And a lock up and a lot of tyre smoke there coming off the 33. As Shaw in 7th position now goes very deep into the hairpin down the back end of the circuit. Matt Shaw, not the way he would have been wanting to go in the first couple of laps of this race. Obviously, a lockup can be detrimental if you're not careful. You can flat spot your tyres. We're going to have a replay here. And so close to the wall there is the number 20 in the 76, clattering the barrier as making their way through. That's the last thing you want to do. Thomas Shelley, though, you'll continue on. You can see the tyre marks on the front end of that car. That's not from hitting someone else on the circuit. That's from hitting the tyre barrier.
Yes, that is definitely flirting with exceeding track limits. I mean, they do say, don't they, that if you put a tyre wall on the edge of the track, they won't exceed track limits. But Thomas Shelley doing his very best to do so regardless. They build them strong, though, these Ginetta G56s. And so I'm sure that won't have done any lasting damage to the left front corner. There is a bit of something hanging down underneath, but that won't be of much concern. Phil McGarty is in a world of concern, quite frankly, because he's been off already once. He's now stopped for reasons unknown on the exit of the Melbourne hairpin. Phil has completed a lap, so he did get back round to the line having had the spin, and now the car has conked out on the exit of the Melbourne hairpin. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere, on its own at least, Kai, and that does now make me fear for a safety car, because we can't really recover a car from the circuit itself without one.
Yeah, wasn't able to pull off in an ideal place that he would have wanted to try and get the marshals to be able to get the car off the circuit without any issues. But no safety car just yet. Our drivers will still rotate the circuit. You can see on the exit of the Melbourne hairpin, that car's in a very dangerous position right there. The marshal's not able to get to the car as the drivers will make their way around. You can see he's tried to get the car to where the slip route and the barriers were, but just not able to get to the position he would have been hoping for, and wasn't able to get onto the grass either.
No, if it had been on the other side of the track, we might have got away with it, perhaps, but it's right on the racing line coming out of that corner, so I feel that a safety car is inevitable. Not yet, though, says race control, because Ravi Rammeed continues on to another lap then at racing speed, with Nick White second, Ed Akers third, and Thomas Shelley in 4th position. Gaps pretty equal between them, really. 1.25 Rammeed to White, 8/10 back to Akers, another second back to Shelley, 1.8 back then to Elman in 8th position. Matt Shaw continues to lead in the rookie class, but he's not as far up the order as we're used to seeing him, really. Matt Shaw 7th overall, still leading in his class, but we've seen him up there vying for overall podium positions so far this season. Riding on board then here with Mark Elman, and Kai, we get a real driver's eye view, we did briefly anyway there, of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Really fast flowing circuit, although Ed Akers is, well, not taking the ideal racing line. What was that all about?
Yeah, no, very deep into the corner there, maybe just trying to hold the position there for Akers. As went off, did the number 20, diving down the inside. Shelley had no issues there, the 76. It looks like there may be an issue here for the 20, as struggling to even keep the car in a straight line.
The tyre appears to still be inflated and on the rim, so I'm leaning towards a steering failure of some sort, but that car just did not want to turn, and then he was fighting for control again on the grass. So very bizarre, but Ed Akers surely is now destined for the pit lane with some sort of an issue. Speaking of, that is around for Paul Livesey, and he deposits himself in the gravel trap now at the chicane. We're going to have more cars in gravel traps than on the track by the end of the 20 minutes, I think, at this race, and another car now in a relatively precarious position that will surely need recovering, and I don't think that one's going to be driving out on its own.
No, not at all. Looked very deep on the rear end there going into the gravel trap. Not the position that you want to be in at all if you want to be racing on the circuit. Still 13 minutes remaining in this race, and we've already had our fair share of action out on the track. 4 drivers going off in this race so far, but Rammeed out in front. Nothing to worry about for him. I don't want to give a commentator's curse to here, as we've seen it before, and going off again is the number 20. That's Akers still having an issue. It looks like he might even have a puncture on the front left tyre of that car. I would not be surprised at all if that is the number 20 of Akers pulling straight into the pit lane. Yeah, you can see that puncture. He's going to go straight on at the corner, and that's yellow flags out once again.
Yeah, he's fighting a lost cause here, isn't he, Ed Akers? I think he's determined to get back to the pit lane, and I mean, you sort of have to admire him for that, but his race is over. Now we go safety car. So finally, race control decides there are too many Ginettas in places that there shouldn't be. There's also quite a lot of dirt, debris, and gravel on the track as well. And Ed Akers pulls into the pit lane then after a very, very dramatic lap. It was a left front puncture, as Kai said. It wasn't immediately obvious, in fairness, that tyre was off the rim, but as he's then gone further round the lap, more damage has been done, and the Michelin road tyre very much parting company with the wheel. Right, and breathe, everybody. 12 minutes to go. Where are we? Well, we've got cars in gravel traps, cars in the pit lane, the safety car on track, and Ravi Ramid leading the way. As their car, we get a proper look at the tyre that very much is off the rim on that left front corner.
Yeah, not just a small puncture there for the front left of the number 20. You can see the wheel completely comparted and off the front rim of that car. It's a shame to see there for Akers. He'll try and get that wheel replaced as soon as possible and get that car back out onto the circuit. Actually, the best possible situation that he could be in right now with the safety car out on the circuit. It's what he would be hoping for, meaning that the least amount of time is lost as he'll get himself back out.
Indeed so. Safety car then awaits the field. Ravi Ramid leading them through. And we get to hit the reset button now a little bit on this race, because Ramid had been sort of starting to assert his authority out in front, although the gap came down on the previous... they'd already slowed down for the safety car, I think, on the previous lap. That is Paul Livesey looking on as the marshals discuss how best to get his car out of the gravel trap. We're not quite halfway through this race, so we should still get some racing done before the checkered flag, I would hope, as Paul trudges away, does the walk of shame through the gravel trap, and will await recovery of his car. Right then, let's take this opportunity to take a look at some replays. This was Ed Akers, a little puff of something out of the left front corner. That could have been the tyre deflating as he went into McLean's corner, and then you can see he's really struggling to keep the car going, initially just through lots of right foot usage to get it through the gravel, but then subsequently it turned out the tyre was indeed down. This then the moment for Paul Livesey that saw him in the gravel. I noticed Pat Shaw there scraping that tyre stack in the background as well. Not the first driver we've seen looping it there through the Fogarty S's today. Paul Livesey caught in beautiful, for us, not so much in his opinion maybe, super slow-mo as he drops the car into the gravel trap. Very, very pretty arty shot, although I don't think Paul will appreciate it quite as much as we. And there, Ed Akers, I mean, how he kept it out of the barriers, Kai, I don't know. I commend him for trying to get the car back to the pit lane, but, well, constantly on the verge of losing control completely.
Yeah, you've got to salute him there for the determination as he kept on going. It's a shame to see that Akers are going to have to pull into the pit lane. He'll try and get that tyre fixed as soon as possible. We're back here with the shots of the drivers, all now brought together. So all the gaps that had been extended, all the gaps that had been established between the drivers is all now brought down to nothing. So Ramyi, that lead that he had over White and the rest of the field, now diminished. He needs to worry about everyone behind him, as I'm sure White will know that Ramyi is the faster of the two of them, and he will give it everything he's got to get that car into the lead the race.
Absolutely. If this is the way that this season's going to go, with Ramid maybe being the faster but White being the kind of canny, consistent racer, Nick still has to capitalise on opportunities like this. When he's got a chance to beat Ravi, he's got to try and take the fight to him, because as the season goes on, you have to imagine Ravi will start to build some of that consistency into his own campaign as well. So Nick can't just rely on Ravi making mistakes all the time. Ravi is a good driver. He is relatively experienced, really, by the standards of this grid anyway, and he's not going to keep making mistakes as the season goes on. The other person I would wager who this benefits is Mackenzie Walker. Remember, he was one of those drivers who started from the back of the grid, as did Phil McGarty, although his race already over. Mackenzie Walker, though, started from the back with a 10-second delay. He was already up into 6th place anyway. That is 5th within the GT Academy class. There you just caught a glimpse of him, the red and white car heading through shot. He now catches up to the front end of the pack. He's got to get past Matt Shaw, who's a rookie, and then he's in amongst the Academy drivers, and there are more points to be had.
Yeah, Walker needs to try and make his way through. Currently in 6th position on the circuit, obviously being 5th in class, but he is stuck behind the rookie class driver of the number 33. We're still under safety car conditions right now. It shouldn't be too long until we get going again. Hopefully that car is cleared up as soon as possible. Obviously the marshals trying to do the best that they can and doing a great job out there on the circuit right now to actually prolong the safety car to the stage that has came out so far.
Indeed. Hopefully we can go racing maybe at the end of this lap. Might be another lap perhaps. As far as I know, it's only Livesey's car that needs moving, because I think McGarty's car has already been pushed down into the what is the assembly area, essentially, on the outside of the Melbourne hairpin. And it's just Livesey's car in the gravel at the Fogarty S's. The Donington marshals and recovery crews are well versed in digging errant race cars out of gravel traps down there, so they should be able to get it done fairly swiftly. And indeed, the lights do go out on the Ginetta safety car, so great work by the marshals, who have stood out there baking themselves slowly as the day goes on. So a big shout out to them for keeping the meeting going and allowing us to go racing again with what's going to be just over 6 minutes to go. And now, Kai, Ravi Ramid has to execute a perfect safety car restart, which is a challenge in itself.
Yep, so Ramid is now down to him to control the pace of the rest of the field. Not quite sure what White was doing there, just having a little look to the inside, showing that he's not afraid to go for the move. Maybe just a little bit of mind games being played here out on the field, maybe trying to go off the racing line out of the slipstream to cool down the gearbox, cool down the car itself. Obviously being in that hot, dirty air for such a long time under the safety car is not the best optimal conditions for these drivers, but as they keep going round, Ramid now has to pull a good safety car restart. He'll try and extend the gap already, and that looks like what he's managed to be able to do. The number 17 pulls down the racing straight and pulls down the home straight, and looks like he's already got a couple car lamps to the driver in second.
Really good restart that from Ravi Ramid, and actually Nick White under threat now, possibly from Thomas Shelley, although he covers the inside line off into Redgate corner. Tight line into Redgate though can sometimes yield to an opportunity for a switchback. On this occasion, though, Shelley stays where he is. Matt Shaw into 4th place. Now, he passed Mark Ellman before the line, according to the timing screen. So Matt Shaw is into 4th, but there shouldn't be any passing before the timing line. So Matt may find himself in a spot of bother for that. It didn't gain him a class position. He was already leading the rookie class, but perhaps Mark Ellman had a bit of a wobble coming to the restart there. Anyway, Shaw 4th, Ellman 5th, and he now becomes the first potential victim for the recovering Mackenzie Walker.
Yep, so Shaw trying to keep himself in position on circuit right now, the number 4. You can see he has a little bit of a gap back to Ellman in behind, and obviously Mackenzie Walker as well making their way through. The drivers still down the back end of the circuit, down towards the S as we go. We've seen a little bit of damage and issues here for the drivers as they made their way down into the S's. Hopefully everyone makes it through safely this time round. It looks like we will, as all the drivers following in suit, following in behind each other. And just under 5 minutes now remaining in this race. Not long left for moves to be made, and you can see one driver locking up a lot in the background there, as that looks like that was Thomas Shelley. Already had issues in this race, and going slowly out of one of those corners there is Shaw.
Yeah, Matt, I think he just got himself a little bit out of shape through the Melbourne hairpin, and then was scrabbling for the right gear and trying to get onto the throttle as best he could out of the hairpin. Mackenzie Walker trying to capitalise on all of this as well. He's trying now to clear Mark Ellman for what is 5th overall, but 4th within the GT Academy class. And of course, we saw Ellman losing that spot just before the restart. There's a rotation at the final turn, though. That's Charlotte Lowe who's looped it now, but thankfully avoids hitting anything solid, and she will continue on her way. Side by side now, Mackenzie Walker up the inside of Mark Ellman, so that's 2 places lost for Ellman since the race restart, one of them technically just before the restart. We'll try and have another look at that in a moment, but for now, Mackenzie Walker is starting to make some progress, and as they drop down through the old hairpin, he's gained now what is 4th place within the GT Academy class. Now, this is the safety car restart then, Kai, and look in the background, Matt Shaw, as they go into Melbourne, just drives up the inside of Mark Ellman and takes the position. This is long before the timing line. That surely is a couldn't-drive penalty.
Yeah, that's... I'm not quite sure what happened there. I can't even describe what happened there to you, as there was no excuse for making the overtake. The other driver wasn't going unnecessarily slowly, hadn't broken down. There was no other issues there on the circuit. Just simply went for the move. And now going for the move around the outside. That's a very tight gap and a brave move that Walker's looking for. Will he be able to make it stick around the outside? Defending on the inside right now with Shaw as they go down through the S's and down towards the hairpin. You can see Ellman now trying to get involved in this battle as well, as he's sitting on the back right now. Luke Shaw just up in front as they go braking down into the hairpin. No one looking up the inside just yet. Make sure they don't go for any moves going down into Goddard. A great exit there from Ellman as he's now breathing down the back of Walker. They go down into Goddard. Nobody looking up the inside just yet. Everyone going through in suit.
Loving these onboard pictures that were being brought this season in Ginetta Racing. Mark Ellman getting a grandstand view of that battle ahead of him. You can also see Mackenzie Walker's car wobbling around in the braking zone. Remember that's Charlotte Lowe again. the chicane this time that Charlotte's race has hit a new low as she's had another rotation, thankfully once more, staying out of the gravel trap. But yeah, Mackenzie Walker's car really wriggling around under braking, scrabbling for traction off the corners. Remember, these cars run on road tyres, so they've got like, big grooves in those tyres. And on a hot day like this, those grooves, those tread of the tyre starts to move around, and that's Ravi Rammeed off at the old hairpin from the lead of the race. Here comes Nick White on the inside. There's almost a brush, but White has gone through. Another error there for Ravi Rammeed, and it costs him the race lead.
Yeah, with just what was going to be a couple laps left in this race, it's the last thing that you wanted to happen. Ravi Rammeed, he still has about a lap to get this one under control and running wide there. You can see all the grass now blocking up the airway to the engine. That might cause an issue with overheating on the car, so he's going to have to keep an eye on that one from an internal perspective. I'm sure the mechanics will be keeping an eye on it as well from an external view. We're still having a look at this battle as Walker's still trying to make his way past Shaw as they go down through the S's, and down towards the hairpin we go. Ravi Rammeed, what has happened there?
Well, he's got to manage one more lap. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but as we've said, pretty warm here today at Donington, so that's going to make managing those engine temperatures pretty difficult. They'll already be starting to climb, I'm sure. It was the old hairpin where he made the mistake, and he'll be kicking himself now. Another error that perhaps is going to not only cost him a race win, but hand the win to his championship rival. Emma Tomlinson's gone round down at the Melbourne hairpin, and now Mackenzie Walker nibbling away at Matt Shaw, but still can't quite get the decisive overlap that he needs to move ahead of the rookie class leader, who sits 4th overall in the race. But Walker needs to pass him in order to have a shot at getting onto the class podium and gain himself a couple of extra championship points. Right then, 1 lap to go. This was the moment for Rammeed. Bit too much speed through the turn, and again, those Michelin Road tyres, Kai, just not yielding the grip that he needed.
Yeah, just dropping one wheel into the gravel and pulls the whole car in, and flying by with no issues there goes White. So Nick White, our championship leader, is now in the lead of this race. And with 20 seconds left on the clock, it's not looking like anything's going to change here, as Rammeed has obviously lost quite a lot of time there to Nick White. As soon as he hit the front, he drove away from the number 17 in second position, who was still scrambling, trying to get himself back under control and back into race shape. We're looking at Shaw, who's still under a lot of pressure from Walker. Walker looked to the inside there, but was he able to get the move done? We'll see as they come back round. Yes, they will. So Walker, after such a long time of trying to get past the amateur driver, he just about manages to do so, and the number 17 finally gets himself into 4th.
Yeah, the frustration being that it's too late now to do anything about Thomas Shelley in front, so that was a lot of effort to get that place, but actually didn't gain him any extra championship points. Ravi Rammeed certainly not maintaining the situation and looking after the engine here, is he? He's still pushing hard as he's more or less matching Nick White's sector times on this, the final lap, but it is going to be another race victory, it would seem, for Nick White to extend his 4-point championship lead. And, well, Nick White will claim his 3rd win of the season. It's 3 apiece now for White and Rammeed, but it's White with the points advantage. Takes the checkered flag after a late error for Ravi Rammeed, who'd led the whole race up to that point mark. Elman goes grass tracking off the final turn. He will come home in 6th place behind Thomas Shelley 3rd, Mackenzie Walker 4th, and Matt Shaw 5th will win in the rookies class. Amy Tomlinson, meanwhile, will come through. Yes, it wasn't Amy who had the spin, was it? She will come through 7th overall. That's 2nd in the rookie class with Lucy behind. And then here comes Emma Tomlinson, who I think because of Charlotte Lowe's various problems will still come home 4th within the rookies. But it is Nick White who claims the victory, and that, Kai, I think is another significant moment in the championship, because we've sort of been selling this storyline of Rammeed being quicker but perhaps a bit more accident prone. And unfortunately, the same thing has happened to him again today. He had that race pretty much wrapped up, and a tiny error, very easy error to make, don't get me wrong, at the old hairpin. We've seen plenty of people do it, but Nick White, I feel, will take a bit of a psychological edge now into the rest of the weekend and maybe the rest of the season.
Yeah, he definitely feels like he's the more consistent driver right now, but Rammeed, he knows that he has the pace to be out in front, but if he hadn't have made that error, I'm sure he would have been the one walking away victorious from this. Now, Rammeed looks like he will have lost 5 more points to Nick White out in front, but actually only losing 3 due to Rammeed having the fastest lap and also pole position going into this race, meaning that he only loses 3 points there to Nick White, who ends up on 166 points, Ravi Rammeed being on 161.
Indeed so. So that could have been worse, I guess, for Ravi Ramid, who at least salvages something from a race in which he ultimately finishes second. Nick White for Raceway Motorsport victorious, having hounded Ramid. In fairness, Nick played his part in that by keeping the pressure on, and eventually it told. So White the winner, Ramid second, Thomas Shelley with a relatively quiet race to third, whilst Matt Shaw in fourth provisionally Mackenzie Walker fourth, Matt Shaw fifth provisionally, the rookie class winner. I say provisionally because it did look as though very much he overtook someone before the safety car restart. Mark Ellman in sixth place ahead of second, third, fourth and fifth respectively in the rookies. Amy Tomlinson, Lucy Tomlinson and Emma Tomlinson were second, third and fourth, with Charlotte Lowe fifth in the class. Ed Akers was a retirement after that puncture at McLean's corner. Paul Livesey spun into the gravel at the chicane and retired, and John McGarty also had his problems in that one. We saw him having an off on the opening lap of the race and then pulling it to the side of the road with apparently some sort of mechanical issue. So lots to dissect and discuss after a very lively first of three races this weekend for the GT Academy Championship. Donington Park always produces good racing. It really is one of my favourite circuits to visit, especially for one-make racing. There's just something about this place that really does bring the drama, and it did so again today here in the GT Academy Championship. So as the cars make their way around to the pit lane, marshals have quite a bit of work to do, actually. No cars as such to be recovered between this race and the qualifying session for British GT, but quite a bit of grass and gravel to be moved. Yeah, whilst they're doing that, let's remind ourselves, shall we, of some of the action that just unfolded. GT Academy action then here at Donington Park got underway with Ravi Ramid from pole position, immediately having to try and get his defensive boots on to keep Nick White at bay. He swiped left, he swiped right and just managed to hold the lead into Redgate corner, while some further back was slow away, a couple of them as a result of post-qualifying penalties. Mark Ellman had a good view of Ed Akers slipping up the inside of Thomas Shelley into the old hairpin, but Akers was wide on the grass and would later have far more significant grassy moments that would ultimately end his race. It all kind of started here with a left front puncture going into McLean's corner. The number 20 car skittered through the gravel trap, and whilst he fought for control to rejoin the track, sadly control was limited and he would eventually have to pull to the side of the road and retire. Mark Ellman was wide in the gravel at Redgate corner. Mackenzie Walker therefore got on the inside of him as Walker recovered from one of those post-qualifying penalties that saw him start at the back with a 10-second delay. Looked as though Ravi Ramid was going to claim his fourth victory of the season, but this moment at the old hairpin with a lap and a half to go gave Nick White just enough opportunity to slip through on the inside and claim a lead that he would never relinquish. Another error for Ramid and more points lost for the championship contender. Matt Shaw was the first rookie driver home at the line, but may well be investigated for overtaking before the safety car restart. He engaged in an entertaining battle there with Mackenzie Walker on the final lap, from which the GTA class driver came out on top. Nick White, though, claimed his third victory of the season to further extend his championship lead over Ravi Ramid, with two races still to go this weekend in the sunshine at Donington Park.